Hello, thank you for joining us on the IT Bridge. I'm David Lawrence from Grant McGregor. I'm super excited to have a chat with my good friend and security expert, Neil from IASME. And we'll be talking about all things cyber essentials today and what the compliance landscape looks like. Hi, Neil. How are you?
All good, thank you.
It's lovely to see you back in Edinburgh.
Yeah, love it up here, as we know, and enjoying the nice dry weather.
I know you've up until I think yes, this morning it was all cloudy and a bit misty, so you've definitely brought the good weather up.
Oh, good. I left the bad weather at home then.
Did you?
Yeah.
Just for some of our listeners, why are you up in Edinburgh this week?
We got a regional meeting of
Right.
our Scottish CVs up here, the annual meeting we have every year.
Right.
And yeah, come up here to meet a number of your colleagues and whatever across the cyber community here in Scotland.
And those are quarterly events, aren't they, you have throughout the UK?
We do 7 a year.
Is it 7, right?
Yeah, across the UK. So we've got 3 coming up over the next 5 to 6 weeks. So yeah, busy time of year for us.
We've known each other for a while,
Yeah.
on and off, 10 years now, I think. But for some of our listeners, do you want to tell them a little bit about yourself and IASME?
Yeah, well, certainly can. Yeah. I've been in IT support for well over 20 years now. I've worked in a number of MSPs and IT services companies and internal IT departments, various sectors, banking and legal and whatever, supporting a couple of critical national infrastructure organizations along the way. So I've got a good basis in IT support, as a systems administrator and an architect, over about 20 years.
Right.
And during that period, I got to know about Cyber Essentials about 9 to 10 years ago. And I became a Cyber Essentials assessor for CE, the self-assessment, and also CE+. Through various means, I ended up working at IASME to do their internal support to start with.
Right, okay, I didn't know that.
That was part of it, but generally then to also help support your Cyber Essentials as it was growing and what it was. And then I became a full-time employee working for them. And I've been with IASME, full-time employee, for over 6 years now.
Right.
Yeah,
Fantastic.
supporting Cyber Essentials full-time for nearly 6.5 years.
For 6.5 years.
Yeah. So I go around supporting all the CBs, the assessor community, etc., which is one here in Scotland, but also key to being involved with updating the requirements, working very closely alongside the NCSE on a weekly basis, almost daily basis, to be honest. We're in contact all the time, working on the last 5 versions and updates.
Is it 5 now?
Yeah, 5 I've overseen. And also the question set and any of the public material that's technically related for Cyber Essentials, how to maintain the standard, etc. And I do a lot of public speaking about Cyber Essentials. So
Cyber Essentials have been around since 2014?
Yeah, that's correct.
2014. And then you just said, 5 iterations of it now?
There's 5 since we became sole delivery partner.
That's right.
That's 5.5 years ago.
Goodness me, how time passes.
Yes.
And we were also talking about earlier, 2025, we've seen at last, hopefully, that more and more organizations are actually aware of Cyber Essentials and what Cyber Essentials is. So we don't have to spend our time explaining what it is and why it's good to have the certification. But let's be mindful of some people that might not know what Cyber Essentials is. What would be a good overview from you to explain what Cyber Essentials is?
I think a good overview of Cyber Essentials is it is 5 protective measures
Right.
that are widely now recognised, and there is some good evidence about them, help to prevent the common cyber attacks, or as we refer to them, commodity cyber attacks in the scheme. And they are proven to help prevent or inhibit a cyber attack from taking place. A lot of cyber attacks in the first instance, use basic or free to use tools that are available on the internet.
Okay.
And the attacker will use those tools to try and do some very simple things, carry out some password guessing, exploit some vulnerabilities or lack of patching on machines, which is possible with end of life if there's no security updates, etc. Those kind of common things that have been around for a long time, that we all hear about passwords, and we hear all about you need to patch a machine on a regular basis, but they are the common things that need preventing. And with some simple practices, you can go a long way to preventing the early stages or inhibit some cyber attacks taking place and make the job a lot harder for the attacker.
And I think that's a really good point. I think that is, Cyber Essentials is that common sense and best practices. And as you said, there are those, some of them quite basic control measures, just implemented well will actually keep you safe and secure. And some of the nasty things that we hear in the press have been because they haven't even done some of the basics.
Yeah, that's correct. So there's a lot of them have been around a long time, actually.
Right.
In my career, you could have put most of these controls in place throughout my career as a systems admin and whatever. Good password practices, make sure your firewalls are blocking all those the ports you don't need open, etc. And making sure your machines are patched. There's many examples out there now of public cyber attacks where maybe they're running end-of-life operating system, also known as legacy, can be a doorway in for an attacker.
Right.
But if you replace those, that's a good measure to stop. But these are just common practices that have been around for a long, long time. It's just there's more evidence against them being proven to prevent and block those early open doors for an attacker at the end of the day.
Yeah, and it's good to see more and more organizations taking security seriously, but also implementing the Cyber Essentials controls, which, as we know, is a UK-backed certification.
Yeah, it's backed by the UK government.
Right.
Yeah, the policyholder is the Department of Science, Innovation and Technology,
right.
known as DSIT for short. But it's the technical side of it is all run by the NCSE, National Cyber Security Centre, who I work with very closely to develop the scheme.
And I think that's really good news, isn't it? It's got that really high level rubber stamp, and from the current government as well. They're all taking it very seriously.
Yeah, there's loads of mentions of it nowadays. We've had the National Cybersecurity Annual Report released last week, where there's lots of mentions of Cyber Essentials. We're hearing it. It's come up a couple of times in Parliament, etc. Because of the focus, because of the high-profile attacks this year, it's got a lot more traction, and a lot more conversations are happening about Cyber Essentials. But hopefully that's causing cyber conversations within business as well. What can we do? We don't want to be a victim of these crimes, because that's what a cyber attack is. It's a crime. And we have to remember that they can be very disruptive, these cyber attacks. It's with evidence, and there's even Panorama discussed one company being brought to its knees was never recovered from a cyber attack. And everybody in business, whatever, should be seriously considering putting the controls of Cyber Essentials in as a starting point to their cyber security throughout the firm or business.
I agree. And as you said, the JLR, so the Land Rover Group, and the Co-op, when they had their very highlighted press, their issues in the press, it wasn't just them, but it was the supply chain.
Yeah.
I think with JLR, the supply chain, I think the government stepped in and looked at following their staff as well, because it's been thousands, if not hundreds of thousands of people that have been affected, not just that very prominent car manufacturer, it's actually the UK supply chain.
Well, as we saw certainly with Co-op and Marks and Spencer's, we saw empty shelves earlier this year.
Yeah.
Because their supply chain, they couldn't order or they couldn't manage the supply chain full stop. That's from the top, but remember, you can also get a supply chain attack start from the bottom.
Yeah.
If they get a ransomware and they share the link through their email, they could be sending it up through as an invoice or something up through the chain and just spread that link. There's many ways it can happen, but supply chain security is going to see a lot of focus on it, certainly from government, a lot of talk about supply chains, etc., because everybody plays their part. So cyber security isn't just a thing we play as a solo sport. It's a team sport, and every organization needs to work in partnership to improve the cyber security of their supply chains, but also the nation as a whole.
Yeah, that's a very good analogy. You've got the very big companies that you would think and do to the most part spend a lot of money on security. And then you've got the smaller companies that are kind of thinking, actually, security, there's a cost to that. And we can discuss the whole risk mitigation versus cost. But actually, Cyber Essentials isn't that expensive to implement.
We have a load of advisors nationally across the whole of the UK who can provide support and advice on applying these common technical requirements. The basis when we create the requirements is we always look at a single device, so it's a single laptop and desktop computer. And the beauty of it is you can apply all 5 controls to a single device and then scale them up across the organization. So the more you have, it takes a bit more management, but there's a lot of advances gone on in operating systems and computers over the last 10, 15 years, where there is a lot of focus on putting these cybersecurity measures in. We have nearly every operating system now includes some malware protection. That can be used to meet one of the controls of Cyber Essentials, but with a bit of patch management or security update management, turning auto updates and things like that on, which are commonly part of the operating system, goes a long way to helping here to prevent those attacks. And it's something you shouldn't avoid. So there's these 5 controls that just need to be applied. They're really common sense. But what has changed is there's a lot of remote working and things like that over the last 5 years, certainly since the pandemic, that has changed how people work. So we use things that are called cloud services. And those cloud services, they have their own security controls we need to put around them.
And you're right, it's okay for us IT people to know that some of these mitigation controls are quite straightforward, but the large one is unsupported, not updated software and operating systems, which is even more relevant after last week with Windows 10 and Office versions as well. And making sure that we're educating people out there to either stop using those unsupported operating systems or software or update them.
Yeah, it's really important not to use the old one. So Windows 10, as we said, we're end of life last week. But it's important to really consider getting off those as quick as possible, because often the reason why these new operating systems and new versions of software come out is to make them more secure at the end of the day. Windows 10 is a good secure operating system, but Windows 11 takes it even further. So, just to have those new operating systems makes you a little bit more secure than you were from when in Windows 10. So it's not something to be avoided. It's not something to forget about and park somewhere else. I'll do it at a later date. You really should be considering getting it done. If you're on Windows 10 now, you are potentially vulnerable to an attack.
Yes. Yeah. And I think we, as Grant McGregor, as a managed service provider, we try with other certified bodies to educate our stakeholders, our customers. Sometimes it's a little bit of a uphill battle, but for the most part, I think businesses understand that operating systems and software should be updated. And actually, there's not a huge cost to implementing some of those upgrades or some of these controls.
No, that's a big change, actually. It's happened over the last few years, is that all the major manufacturers, for the more consumer or the end user devices, the upgrades are normally free. We used to have to pay for Windows XP when we upgraded from Windows 7, was it? Or the other way around, Windows XP to Windows 7. Yeah, we had to pay for that upgrade. But from the Windows 10 to Windows 11, the actual operating system is a free upgrade. Yes, there are some security changes in the background, but that's a step forward. It's the same in the Apple Mac world as well. The upgrade from one operating system to another is free. They launch a new one every year.
And I think that you're right. That's one of Microsoft's best things that they've done in a long time, was to kind of mirror that Apple strategy of saying, actually, let's not do a major operating system upgrade and charge you for that. Let's actually just do an in-place upgrade and keep you secure and on to the most relevant operating system.
Yeah.
I mean, talking about versions, I think you said earlier 5 Cyber Essentials question sets since IASME.
I think so.
Yeah.
I think it's coming to 5, yeah.
Yeah, quite 5. And we had Montpellier, now we're on to Willow.
Yeah, that's right, yeah.
Just remind me where the names come from.
So the names of the question sets for Cyber Essentials are from the Malvern Hills Springs, where our head office is located.
You're taking one out of Apple's books for places in America.
It wasn't intentional. It was just happens to be that the first one we did was Beacon. I mean, it happens to be one of the closest springs to our offices, and we were looking for names because it's better to have we thought it'd be cooler to have a name, and you know,
like a version,
and a version number or something like that. So yeah, they're all there's some. We've got a few of them to go. They'll see out my career, I think.
And you were saying how Edinburgh is beautiful, but the Malvern Hills in that area actually is lovely.
Yeah,
I've done
great part of the world to work. Yeah,
yeah, it's lovely, lovely scenery. And in the last, so Montpellier, now Willow, what's been one of the biggest changes with Willow compared to the previous version?
The big changes in Willow are with the recognition of passwordless authentication methods such as Passkeys, etc.
Right.
These are phishing-resistant styles of login where you need perhaps a biometric or some additional factor that isn't something that you remember, like a password or something like that. So there's a recognition of that we accept that as an authentication method in Cyber Essentials.
Right. Okay.
And the other really major one was recognizing that vulnerabilities are fixed in numerous ways, not just running an update or a patch. So it could be a vulnerability fix. So the vendors such as Apple or Microsoft or Adobe or somebody, they release a vulnerability fix, and the vulnerability fix, it could be that you make a small config change in the background, or you need to get your IT MSP to just make a registry change to your machines, which is part of the operating system, just to make sure that it's not vulnerable from something that's been publicly identified. So that was the big change, because we were seeing some fixes from some major systems coming out where maybe it just meant installing a new feature or something like that totally fixed the vulnerability from being a critical to the vulnerability disappearing at the end of it.
It's interesting. And I think, as we both know, that is in line with certainly Microsoft's strategy of pushing passwordless user accounts. And we both know from our experiences over the years that passwords is still one of the weakness in the human firewall. And to see technology in the industry hopefully move over the next number of years to remove passwords, it's just going to be a great place.
Yeah, that's been one of the big developments over the last 3 years, is in Cyber Essentials is the focus on multi-factor authentication. Also, now you'll see several terms used in various places at the MFA, 2SD, which is two-step verification or two-factor authentication. But yes, that's been widely adopted, and most cloud services use it, and we require for Cyber Essentials that to be used. It does make you a lot more secure, and it's that inhibiting a cyber attacker. So if they try to log in with a username and password and you've got no MFA on, that's it. They could get into that cloud system and get some of your data, access your emails. But with two-factor authentication or multi-factor authentication in place, you may be asked for a PIN or a text message be sent to your mobile phone, which isn't in the hands of the attacker, making it a lot harder for them to get in. So that's been a big development in Cyber Essentials over the last few years.
And we know, unfortunately, with passwords that people still, not everybody, but some people still use their favorite football team as the password, or use their Facebook password for the main business password. And we both know that unfortunately, when these passwords make the dark web, that it's not too difficult for a threat actor to go, okay, that's their username on Facebook and this is their business account. Let's try that password. And you're absolutely right to have that additional layer of authentication in place. But let's just hope that those days are behind us with people using Liverpool FC as a password and we move to passwordless.
I think we're really fast moving away from username and password.
Yeah.
Really fast. It's it's not only you want to protect you as an organization, but we heavily rely on IT systems. That portal into the internet.
Yes.
So many systems rely on it, but you have your laptops and your desktops, so that's an interface to the internet. And with these systems that we use, like Microsoft 365 and Salesforce and all these Google Workspace and all these fancy other systems, especially with AI, they run through a web page, a web portal, which is out across the internet in what we call the cloud. And if you can get to the internet, so can the attacker get to it. So anything you can block so they can't, or use as an extra layer, so that extra factor makes all the difference.
Yeah, I mean, it's just critical. Just gives that extra layer of defense. We were talking earlier about both our experiences with organizations going through cyber essentials. I think earlier you were talking about larger organizations and some of the challenges that they have going through cyber essentials. What would you say one or two things stick out that maybe large organizations let's say large organizations maybe underestimate or don't consider when they're going through the cyber essentials journey?
I think the thing is with larger organizations, they have a bigger challenge because their estates of the end user devices are so large, they have to add to the system. So they do have this massive challenge of getting maybe thousands of devices updated in a period of time. And in Cyber Essentials, we ask for all high and critical patches to be updated within 14 days of release by the vendor. That is a tough ask, but there's a lot of evidence to say that these vulnerabilities are being exploited in a far shorter time than that.
Right.
And so we do ask what seems an onerous task, but we have many large organizations who are now finding ways to do that.
Okay.
And the number of large organizations getting certified is more and more. And the other factor is, I think we've touched on it already, is multi-factor authentication. This is the biggest development over the years, is making it far more widely available. And it just helps everybody to have multi-factor. You can do it at home. You can do it with your home social media accounts, etc. And I would highly advise it. Everybody does it.
Well, it's funny because in the last 6 months, I've had two gentlemen in my village that live near me know me personally. They know that I'm in IT, and they both have had their Gmail accounts. Oh no, one was TalkTalk, one was Gmail, but they're both hacked because the passwords got exploited, and then had no 2FA set up on these personal emails, and then the threat actor had created a rule, as we both know that's what they do, and not just an inbound rule, but an outside rule, so they were getting the email as well. And it's terrifying, especially if you're slightly older and this happens. You feel so vulnerable, and yet it's quite easy just to protect your email. I always say to people, put two-factor authentication on everything, not just bank transactions, websites, but put it on Amazon, put it on wherever you're buying your food from, wherever you can.
Yeah. I think the important thing to remember is that these attackers operate 365 days a year, and they can be operating from anywhere in the world. So as we've seen over the years, this could be a state nation, China, Russia, any of those, the big names are always associated with this, or it could be a teenager or whatever. We've seen that in the news recently. But the thing is, when we talk about what we do in Cyber Essentials, what we're trying to protect you from is when it's going to happen, not if it's going to happen nowadays. It's really important that you consider, if you have an always-on internet connection in your office and you've got devices connected to it, they can be vulnerable 24/7, 365 days of the year. So you need to put these protective measures in place. Now, it sounds really simple to just put a few measures in place, but they take a bit of maintaining.
Yeah.
And it's always what needs to be thought about.
That's a very good point, because we always say that cyber essentials is on, and as you know, it should be, it's an ongoing certification compliance.
Yeah.
It's not just about sticking the certificate on the wall and saying 12 months time, let's just revisit it. And I know there's tools in the industry that people can put on little agents and say, hey, we're cyber essential. But I think you're saying, and I would echo, it's not just getting the education, it's getting the culture change, and going through the process properly with cyber essentials is important.
Yeah, you make something important there. You buy these extra tools and whatever to help with these cyber secure. But the first thing you need to do to make those tools cyber secure, put the controls of cyber essentials in first.
Yes.
So if they need a password and some form of authentication for your administrators to operate it, if the user can't do it, that still needs to be configured to meet the controls of cyber essentials to add that layer of security in place. It is really, really fascinating to see the whole industry, the way it grows and whatever. But I think truly cyber essentials is that layer below everything else, is the absolute starting blocks of any journey on a cyber before you go into these tools. Because many of these tools are, provide extra layers, but the extra layers will only work properly if you put these 5 controls in place.
Yeah, that's a very good point. And broadly, with I suppose under the new government and the new Data Act of 2025, was it the Data Use and Access Act? How do you see cyber essentials complementing that?
I think it's important when you're talking about what's coming in and coming out.
Mm.
There's also the cyber resilience bill,
Yes.
which has been on the lips of everybody within the MSP and the IT services industry for quite a while now. And I see a place where there'll be more focus on the IT services industry and the people providing organizations in your businesses the support, because there's a lot of focus, because they hold the keys to your kingdom. Sometimes you put a lot of trust in an MSP, that's a managed service provider, or an IT services company, because if you want cyber essentials, you're trusting that they're putting it in place.
Yes.
You need to do some checks and make sure they are at the end of the day. And we work with, IASME works with a community of over 400 cyber security and IT services companies that are trained in cyber essentials and understands the importance of putting these in place. But that will link back, because there's going to be a lot of focus on this with these various bills. Government is talking about it even more. We are seeing lots of mentions, as I've said, in recent weeks from the UK, the new government, or the government's been in 18 months or so.
Yeah.
We're also seeing links to the controls, not necessarily naming cyber essentials, but in a few judgments from the Information Commissioner's Office, the ICO, where they are pointing out perhaps this organisation should have applied their patches within the required timelines that are outlined in Cyber Essentials, or adopted the principle of least privilege, which Cyber Essentials follows. And these are really important. So there are these direct links that you can start to see in it, whether it doesn't get a direct mention, Cyber Essentials, it may be in these apps, but the building blocks before it. So you can take it with the ICO, and most organizations are affected by data protection laws, etc. They look for technical measures. It is listed in Article 5 and Article 32, I believe, that it completely says technical measures, technical and organizational measures. What have you put in place? They are looking to see if you put the 5 controls of cyber essentials in place as a beginning, as that starting point.
Well, and we've said as a company for many years that as a managed service provider looking after other people's IT, that we hold many keys to many kingdoms. And that's the truth of it. I know, and we said earlier that businesses adopting cyber essentials, culturally, they go through that journey of maturity. But as a managed service provider, we saw that as part of our journey over the last 12, 10 years adopting Cyber Essentials, and we have a high amount of Cyber Essentials assessors. And actually, so it's great that they've got the certification, but actually what's been really good is that they've understood those controls and they've grown and matured. And as a culture in Grant McGregor, we've seen the whole company now really understand what those controls and those protection measures are to our customers. So when we have our service desk interacting with our customers, at the forefront of their mind is Cyber Essentials. And I guess, that investment hasn't been cheap over the years, but I think it's really proved a worthwhile investment. And as you said, just for years, and we've been doing this for a long time, the industry should have some sort of certification or leaning towards more accreditations when it comes to security.
Yeah, it's really important, and it's. I think we live in a world where people understand risk, and they see it. So, one, your risk is: are you checking out who provides and manages your IT to start with?
Mhm.
Two, another risk-based decision you have to make is, and this is probably the biggest one: do I adopt the controls of Cyber Essentials or not? I think you're at risk if you don't adopt the controls of Cyber Essentials.
Yes, I'd agree.
I think you're attracting that problem if you don't take it on board anymore. We often get questions about where does risk, can we make our own risk judgments in Cyber Essentials? Oh, we don't believe in patching in 14 days. That decision's been made for you. It is a part of a risk assessment based on the state of cybersecurity within the UK, held by the NCSC, doing a risk assessment on behalf of the UK government. That's really important. But the risk decision to make the Cyber Essentials is, do you apply the controls or don't you? And I plead to you, apply the controls. It really, really will make a difference. But the other factor with Cyber Essentials, and I think besides applying the controls, and the most important thing for me, and that this is on my whole journey about Cyber Essentials over nearly 10 years, is Cyber Essentials is about education. Educating the individuals involved in an organization, talking to business owners, etc., and talking to about the risks and the factors you're trying to prevent and the attacks you're trying to prevent, but also just to make it a general conversation in organizations. And for me, those wins, getting cyber higher up the risk register, it needs to be number one to your priorities nowadays. If your business relies on the internet to do business, generally, you need to take cybersecurity very seriously.
Yeah.
But talk to a CB, talk to an MSP that is versed and understands Cyber Essentials. They will come and talk to you over a period of time. It will take time if you're not putting the controls in place. It will take time, and it needs a bit of cultural change using multi-factor authentication, etc. But it's all part of education. Make it part of your culture. Don't be scared of having a conversation about cybersecurity and showing the way. We can get away from the old adages of, we're too small to be of interest to a cyber attacker. They're not really bothered now. If they can get in, they'll get in, and they can cause disruption. And the last thing we want to see is that happening to organizations. We actually want to see the reduction of cyber attacks, and your starting point is these controls.
Just some really good advice, Neil, because I think gone are the days where small businesses certainly can pretend it will never happen to them, and unfortunately, we've seen too often that it does. So looking forwards, and technology in general isn't standing still. AI and other trends. Where do you see Cyber Essentials going in the next couple of years?
I think Cyber Essentials would develop. It will develop about the fast-paced change around authentication methods. We may have to think about, well, it all depends on how quick technology. So technology can be used to do things, obviously AI, but let's remember AI is a really good tool, but also it enables cyber attackers to develop new attacks a lot quicker as well. So Cyber Essentials will have to develop at a faster pace of change. Some of the timelines or whatever, I don't know at the moment, may come down. We may have to look at different threats. But we rely on the information from the NCSC and all their incident management, etc. And they may want us to develop things going forward and see. They will manage the risk side of it, and that's how we will develop it and manage your risk as an organisation by making changes to the scheme in the future. But we have to do an annual update because of exactly this, because things change at pace. Look at what happened 3-4 years ago when Cyber Essentials didn't have a lot about remote working in it, and we had to make a real fast change because of the pandemic and the change, the monumental change of organizations to working from cloud services. So there could be future developments in that area as well.
It's good to know. And it's really good to know that, IASME and yourself are agile enough to react to these changes.
Yeah.
It certainly keeps me tucked up in the bed secure now, knowing that you have our back.
Keeps me on my toes as well.
Neil, fantastic. Thank you for taking the time out of your very busy schedule. Lovely to see you in Edinburgh.
Thank you.
And thanks for helping explain the benefits of Cyber Essentials. And hopefully we've done some good education pieces today to help small businesses understand where they can make a start. So
thank you very much.
Thanks, Shay.
Cheers.
I was really pleased being able to have this conversation with Neil from IASME. And so it's a big thanks for turning up and giving us your time. I know that's really difficult for you to do that, squeeze some time in for us. So thank you. And I hope you enjoyed listening.